Okay, good evening. Thanks everybody for coming tonight. I know you're taking time out of your schedules to join us and we're very appreciative. I'm super excited to kick off this event, which is the future of our downtown. I can't wait to hear about the collaborative conversation that we're going to have and ideas and thoughts that you all have. We have with us tonight Tool Design, who is our consultant company that we have hired to help us through this process. He's also going to talk a little bit about the project that they're currently doing, which is the Interurban Pedestrian Walkway, and then launch into why we're all here this evening. Eric Childs.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Yes, my name is Eric Childs. I'm a senior landscape architect with Tool Design. I have with me Evan Holliday, Riddick and Ray, Vanessa Lira, and Bonnie Moser, who's back here. Yeah. So, who are we? We're a group of landscape architects, urban designers, planners, engineers, and authors. You can see a selection on the screen of a number of the design guidance or guidelines that we've offered all across the country, focused on walkability, bikeability, the way people move through space in all kinds of environments ranging from urban to rural. But we don't just write, we also transform cities. So I'll talk more about this city. These are a couple images from Sulphur Springs, Texas. We transform streets. And we transform entire districts. So that ranges from the very high level planning efforts all the way down into final design and construction. I'll talk briefly about our involvement with the Interurban Street project as well. That's a project that came out of the ANA 2050 Comprehensive Plan and the Downtown Master Plan. It was identified as one of the projects that would really help move your downtown forward in terms of creating a walkable, inviting destination. And so we've been working with Anna for a while now in terms of getting those final design documents ready and going over material selections and trying to make that a comfortable place to be. And we are hoping that that will get wrapped up very, very soon. But back to this project. So I want to put this in context in a couple of ways. I've already mentioned a couple of these projects. The 2050 Comprehensive Plan that was done back around 2020, 2021, and the Downtown Master Plan that accompanied that. And then recently the Comprehensive Plan was updated. And now we're on to this effort, the ANA Marketing Map strategy. There's a proper name for it, the ANA Economic Development Marketing Strategy. And so what I'm trying to convey here is that this is a sequence of planning efforts that has happened over time, and it started, a comprehensive plan starts at a very high level, talking about, a wide area, the entire city. And we're getting more and more granular in terms of talking about the downtown and pieces that we want to update. And now we're getting to what the downtown wants to look and feel like. But I also want to talk about some concurrent efforts that are going on and make sure that we kind of understand where we are and what we're talking about here. So there's the branding and identity effort that's going on right now, which is asking what is the identity of downtown Anna? And that's getting into, what kind of logos can we come up with that summarize Anna? What language can we use to reflect the character of Anna? That's not what this is, but it is happening at the same time, and we're working with the city to understand what that project's coming up with so it informs our work. There's also the historic aspects piece, which is what do we want to do with the historic assets that we have, and that will follow this project. But we're in the middle. This is an economic development and marketing effort. What do we want? And we're answering the question, what do we want downtown Anna to look and feel like? And so what is this project really going to be about? Why are we doing this project? So it starts with a shared vision, which is what tonight is going to be about. A shared vision for downtown Anna that's going to be in collaboration with citizens, with stakeholders, with city leadership. And it's going to result in a set of tools that help guide decisions in terms of how development happens. And there will be a framework and illustrative plan to tie it all together to make it buildable. And so community vision, when I say that, I know this community has been through a number of these efforts before with those plans I just mentioned, but just coming back to what the definition there is, it's a consensus on what the place ought to be like in the future. And there's already been work done, and that's what we're building on. So this is language pulled from the comprehensive plan and the comprehensive plan update. There's lots of stuff to love in here. Based on heritage and built on innovation. You're looking ahead to 2050. You want to be a diverse and vibrant community. You want to have a range of community amenities. You want to have places where people can work, places where people can live and play. So the work that we're doing is grounded in a vision that the community has already largely defined. So we're not starting from scratch. And there are a number of other guiding principles and values. We've taken a quick look at those documents that I referenced earlier, trying to understand and ground our work. But it's clear that it's built on community values that you have expressed, growth that's intentional and supported by infrastructure, a city that protects its heritage while also evolving, places that are active, walkable, bringing people together. A community that's inclusive across ages, incomes, and backgrounds. So this charrette is about translating those values into something physical, something that downtown can become. You know, when downtown gets built, what will it become on the ground? So the why are we here kind of has two parts. We're confirming and advancing the direction that's already been established in the comprehensive plan and the downtown master plan. And we're going to refine that because as we're zooming into this core area that I'll show you in a minute, we want to refine it with real-time input from the people who live, work, and invest here. And that helps create alignment and momentum to our plan. And so when I talk about a set of tools that guide decision makings, I'll show a few examples here. So one thing that we'll be helping the city with is creating a number of supporting diagrams that just illustrate some basic principles about how people move through downtown. So that'll relate to mobility, people walking, biking. We've heard some things about golf carts. We'll also think about how people drive through downtown and where they park. In terms of open space, we'll think about where parks and gathering spaces go and how can those be made better when we have better, more welcoming front doors to your parks, for example. Understanding the role of civic uses and the uses that attracts. Understanding developable land. So where can growth and investment happen? And then phasing. So what happens first? What's most important first versus what can happen later? And so these diagrams will help the city make coordinated decisions over time with some of these complex issues. And so we get into things like street types here, which is what we're showing. And there's a lot that goes into a great street. So we want to lay out the clear rules for how streets and public spaces are designed. And that'll cover things like street types, dimensions, the number of lanes, sidewalks, planting areas, the public realm elements like trees, lighting, furnishings. And that matters because future development wants to match the vision that we create for downtown. This is our chance to really shape it. Otherwise, it's going to happen and you don't get a chance to shape it in the way that you want it to go. And so that piece of this gets into mobility standards. So there's a big component of this project that does look at the dimensions that I mentioned. And that will be not a focus of this week. It will come after because we're here for this 1 week. And then we will produce a report at the end of it. But before I get to that report, I want to talk about the illustrative map, the marketing tool, really, that we're going to collaborate with you on. So what is this? It's a visual plan that's going to show how downtown Anna could grow and change over time. And we want that to be a tool to guide both public investment and private development. So what it's going to include are concept layouts for key sites, street and block structure, how parks and civic spaces and development relate to each other, because cities are about relationships between space and between people. And this is going to help property owners and developers see what's possible in a way that maybe they need this tool. That's the message that we're getting from the city, is that what we want to achieve with this vision is something unique, not in terms of it's never been done before, but in terms of something unique in the context of Anna. It also helps create a shared direction before projects are proposed. So again, it gets back to what do we want downtown to look and feel like? And so in addition to that illustrative plan that I just showed, we're also, after the charrette, going to be preparing a number of photorealistic renderings that illustrate different components of commercial opportunities, civic space, residential streets, catalyst projects, that sort of thing. And we'll package that up in a development report after the charrette. This document will bring it all together. Again, it will be a tool for the city. It will be a showcase for investors, and it will be graphic heavy. So we're not going to be producing a ton of text that will sit on the shelf. We want to give clarity to property owners about expectations and help the city prioritize the infrastructure and investments and really reduce uncertainty for everybody. And so again, we're starting with public engagement. This is literally except for the site visit, this is the first thing we're doing. I'm sorry for the misaligned text there. So tonight we're at the community kickoff. We have open studios tomorrow afternoon and evening from 5 to 7 in this space. That's a chance for you, if you are interested and you want to talk to us, or if you have questions, you are more than welcome to drop by. We're going to be working on tables. We'll be sketching as you come chat with us. And it's a chance to provide your thoughts, share your concerns. Again, that's part of y'all shaping what you want downtown to look and feel like. So that'll be Tuesday and Wednesday. And it is not a Friday discussion. It is a Thursday discussion. I have the correct date. But we will be reconvening here Thursday at 6 to share what we have generated so far. It'll be starter ideas. Nothing is set in stone. It is a chance to collect feedback from you guys, because again, we'll take what the feedback that we get Thursday night. We'll reconvene with the city and sift through the comments and tailor our final product accordingly. So that's what we're doing. But I also want to kind of step back and talk about what is a charrette, which is what this is, this week-long effort. So as the legend goes, a charrette, the charrette story by Nobody Knows For Sure. I'm sorry, this is cheesy. So once upon a time, legend has it, it was in France, because charrette is a French word. There was a strict design professor who set a deadline for a group design project for 5 p.m. But it was already 1 p.m. on the due date, and the students were not finished. As I said, charrette is French for cart. And so what they decided to do is we have 3 hours of work until the deadline, but their studio space is in a different space than the university where they had to submit the deadline. So they decided to all get in the cart and work for the 3 hours together. So they had all their resources in one place. All the people were together so they could all talk in real time and draw and sketch, and the happy ending of the story is that they lived happily ever after because they submitted it on time. But more seriously, this is a collaborative workshop in which we've gathered all the resources to meet our predetermined deadline, which is Thursday night. And those resources, certainly include our team, but they also include our stakeholders that we're going to be meeting with over the next few days. They include everybody in this room. They include city leadership. And what that does is it helps cut down on feedback loops. So the way projects like this are often done is remotely over email, and something that takes 1 week of time, what we're doing here would take 3 to 5 months using conventional means and conventional methods of communication. So that's kind of why we're here. I'm going to dip into some of the areas of downtown, what we're talking about. So this is the street network, and the yellow boundary represents the downtown core that we're going to be studying. You've got maps, not this exact map, but you have a map of the downtown core area on your tables, and we have an exercise for you all later. But for now, we're just getting oriented. So we have several major roads that go through our study area. We have FM 455, which is also White Street. We have Powell Parkway. We have the downtown grid, 7th Street all the way up through 1st Street. And then the northern boundary is Hackberry Drive. We also, these are character areas. I'm going to go through a series of maps that are reflected. They're slightly refined versions of what you see in your downtown master plan. Again, this is us just in discovery mode. We're trying to learn about your city because we're not from here, and that's why you guys are here to help us out, because we don't know a whole lot other than what we've already read and what we've already seen. So the yellow parcels here, this is your income residential. There are several pockets of historic residential fabric that surround the downtown core. We recognize this is a critical piece. Like, we want people to live in downtown Anna, and we're trying to understand how future land use decisions can emphasize good neighborhoods and good neighborhood placemaking. We want to be able to foster connections through whatever this downtown plan looks and feels like. This is your open space network at the moment. You have Johnson Park, you have Shirley Heritage Park, the new plaza outside this beautiful library. So again, just kind of what we're doing is just pulling apart pieces of the city and trying to understand them, and then we kind of put it all back together. Your civic space, again, the building that we're in is part of this. But then we get into what's really going to change, like the downtown core, the retail center, the area located along 4th Street and the blocks between 4th and 5th, trying to understand what this wants to be. And the direction that we saw in the master plan is walkable. We want storefront buildings that are active, that engage your interest. Catalyst areas, these are areas that have been identified for redevelopment or new development based on how large the parcel is and their potential to spur activity and to contribute to the urban fabric. We have adaptive use and refill. Adaptive reuse and infill. Again, these are typically smaller lots. This is the kind of thing that's really attractive for investors and development. And this is where you might see, more active uses potentially. But we don't know what this is yet. We have some images to work with, but this is part of why we're here, to kind of translate that big picture, comprehensive plan imagery and language to what this actually looks and feels like. And then, although these are outside of our study area, these transitional areas in the far northeast and southeast areas, these transitional areas can be areas that may change over time, from detached residential projects to different housing types where, again, these can be catalytic in nature potentially, but this is a bit of a fuzzy area in terms of what these could be. And so this is kind of putting it all together. Again, an updated representation of what's in the comprehensive plan. So with that, I want to hand it over to Evan and Vanessa to kind of talk about some of the images that that we took and the things that we saw during our site visit. So that's back to you.
Yeah. So I'm going to speak briefly about just from our experience walking around. As Eric was saying, we were here to discover, and so we took 2 hours of this afternoon to drive and walk around and take pictures and see what came up. The first couple images that I have are really what stuck out to me. There's over my phone, things that I noticed from observing and just experiencing what it was like to walk around. These first two are from 4th Street. One is taken from the sidewalk underneath the awnings, and one is from the middle of the street itself. Honestly, walking in the middle of the street felt great. You were high up, you were in the middle of things, you got to see out both directions, east and west. And it was an interesting contrast to the shaded, more low down spot right next to the buildings themselves. We're thinking about how to make this place even better for pedestrians walking around, what it's like to be in the space. And just thinking about noticing the different parts of the street, where people want to be, what's exciting about being downtown. The next one that stands out is we were walking along the train tracks, and it is wide open. Where I'm from, Raleigh, North Carolina, has a lot more hills, a lot more trees, and it was exciting and fun for me to see just so much wide open space, but then also see something in the distance. Everywhere I looked, there was a landmark. There's the beach nut. I can't read the rest of the sign here, but then there's a water tower, the playgrounds, the library itself, and so having something in the distance to draw you to be excited on these long vistas was exciting to walk around. And the last one I have is just a small little alleyway, a little nook. This was also along 4th Street. You can see Crowns, curbside pickup sign there. But just finding a spot to poke your head in, to get curious, to get excited about something that might be there. There are a lot of places like this in the downtown areas that we were walking in. A lot of small places that have curiosity in addition to the big wide open spaces. Something I was excited about. I'm excited to see more and hear more about what y'all like about and what could be grown here.
Everybody, I'm Vanessa. A couple of things I've been looking at was the downtown gateway, so thinking about Reading Street and White and Hackberry, and really thinking about that half mile in between as gateway into downtown. A half mile is a 10-minute walk, so it's really not a long distance at all. And then we think about the potential of how it could be more walkable, more active. We always want to be thinking about those distances and what are pieces that somebody might feel comfortable exploring on their own. We also looked at a lot of the open spaces, the Deer Park and Shirley Heritage Park here on the screen. It's really important when we're thinking about downtowns that we look at the parks of open spaces and how downtown can serve as connective tissue to really provide additional access for those parks. Those are always areas that are great for trails as well. So we're really thinking about connectivity, not just within the very core of where we are, but also the edges and how we can make sure that's cohesive as a neighborhood. And then lastly, the architecture. We have obviously this very modern building here as an example. We also have great historic and older structures. As we think about the potential footprints of new development, we want to keep that human pedestrian skill in mind that we have such great examples of through the historic buildings in downtown Raleigh.
Right. So again, walking around just to put a few words to some of the things that we just showed you with images. This is a tiny sample of your attributes, but the things that really stick out include again, this beautiful facility, your neighborhood parks, the municipal center, and the activity that's starting to attract in conjunction with this library. The historic elements that we've seen in Anna, and then some of the active places that are starting to pop up. Three Nations, the restaurants and beer gardens that we know are coming, and that's a very exciting thing. And then the dynamic growth that's so obvious here, and that's an attribute. It's also a double-edged sword, right? Because there's a ton of pressure to deal with the influx of people, and that brings about a lot of change, and change produces uncertainty. So that's why we're here. What do we want Anna to be, and how can we shape that? Okay, so a little bit we're going to step back, and I'm going to ask you some questions. It's an informal pop quiz. You will all be graded. Kidding. Okay, so this is a city. It is not a real city. Can anyone tell me where the most valuable piece of property is?
See, right outside of the inner circle.
Okay, I think I heard somebody say circle, and that is the circle. That is correct, because streets create relationships. So almost every street you take, if you go up this street, you'll see the circle. Obviously, the four diagonals create a relationship with it. But now the circle is a park. So what's the most valuable? That's where your answer comes in. The edges around the park, because now you have a place of importance. Parks and cities are prime real estate. So your wealth generating properties the highest ones are going to be around the edge of the circle. Again, because you have relationships that are formed when you arrange streets in a certain way. So let's say the guy that owns the two parcels to the northwest of the circle, let's say he wants to take that road out because it will do a lot for his property. Is that a good idea from a city building perspective? No. The reason is now you've created, before, everybody had kind of equal access to the park and the circle. Now, the folks in the northwest are disadvantaged. They don't have as good access. It's harder for them to get there. They might have traffic issues that come up from that disconnected street. So again, we have to think carefully about the changes we make to the urban fabric. So here's another one. There's a railroad that runs down below. What's the most valuable street?
Far away from responsible.
Yeah. Yeah, so the railroad creates a barrier. And in addition to that, the railroad has severed because there's only one crossing. Now you've got two distinct sides, and this is played out this is an abstract example, but this example is played out all across this country in terms of, where does the phrase wrong side of the tracks come from? Oftentimes when you have something that splits a community like this, one side or the other gets disadvantaged for various reasons. So again, it's about the relationships that occur with the public realm that you form and shape. So again, this is another one. So you have a waterfront edge. In A, you have the streets that are oriented toward the waterfront, sort of longitudinally. In B, you have the streets that are oriented more horizontally. So you kind of have more real estate, I guess, along the waterfront and the park edge. And then C, the difference between B and C is in B, you have a street that's fronting the park space, and in C, you don't. So let's just look at B and C for a second. What's good? What version of the park between B and C is going to get more use? B or C? C. I would actually argue B, because in C, the issue is that you've got those properties are going to develop sort of a sense of private ownership over the park. And so you're going to have, it's going to be harder to access the public realm from that side. Whereas when you have the street along the waterfront, you've got, that's public access, and it helps provide a front, basically an active edge along the park. Is there a configuration that's better for, what configuration would you say is the best one?
For the park or for real estate?
Both.
Probably B, or even a combination of A and.
Yeah, so A actually gives, because of the orientation of the street, you get all those vistas towards the park and the waterfront, and that creates more value that's distributed deeper into the street network. As opposed to B, you only have 3 really access points, visual connections to the park. So A is actually a little more valuable for the city at large. So these aren't just abstractions that we're showing. This is stuff that's been borne out through data. So I'm not going to belabor this too much, but the image on the left, this is from the Minneapolis metro area. So the image on the left, you can kind of see the street network is less gridded. You kind of have the suburban curvilinear forms. This is clearly an arterial road. So the wealth, this is looking at land value per acre, and that's represented in sort of the spikes that you see. The land value per acre is centered around the lake. So that's kind of illustrating the, sort of that private ownership of this large amenity. Whereas here with a gridded street network, you still have several lakes. That's downtown Minneapolis, so that's kind of a different situation. But with this gridded street network, you see a much more evenly distributed and a higher land value per acre. So again, it's about like where are your wealth building streets? Again, this is looking at parks. So from a value perspective and from a safety perspective, which park is better? C. I would actually say A, because you have eyes on the street. In B, your teenagers are going to learn to smoke right there because no one can see them. These are all fronted by buildings. So again, the more visibility you can give to your public space and park space, the better. And A would actually increase the property value of those surrounding properties. So another thing that we're thinking about, I'm kind of going through some of the things that's fresh in our heads when we come down here. A frontage streets and B frontage streets. So what that means is in any kind of successful city, you have a network of A streets and B streets. And A streets are addressed by buildings. They have active and engaging facades. And they typically are prioritized towards pedestrians and really should have no driveways or service functions. So you can see in the image there, that's a very happy and healthy main street. B frontage streets, they're intended to service things like delivery. Vehicular access is super important. And your B streets are supposed to provide access to parking and services that are in successful cities are best aligned behind your development. So it's kind of about presenting your best face towards the public realm. As opposed to turning inward and devaluing the public realm. And there are all kinds of examples of this. This works in all kinds of different contexts. So local streets, like you can see in the upper left, you have conflict-rich sidewalks. I have a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old. I would never, ever let them walk down that street because of the chance of them getting run over. Whereas upper right, conflict-free sidewalks, that's a comfortable, safe, happy experience. In a conventional suburban street, where you have basically a wall and the backs of houses turned towards the street, you have no eyes on the street. We call that kind of a septet failure or a crime prevention through environmental design. Whereas here, when you are facing the street, you have plenty of natural surveillance. And this works at all scales too, from low density to high density. So yeah, high performing streets provide walkability, comfort, quality of life, aesthetics, safety. They're legible, meaning you can understand where you are in the city, and they're multimodal. And so these are a couple of images of places where cars live. Again, we're not opposed to cars, but it's about presenting your best face. So I want to tell the story about Sulphur Springs. This is the story of a city that was in the 70s and 80s, suffered a lot of disinvestment because of the access road that attracted a lot of the city's economy and energy and really became the image of the city. And downtown looked like this. You needed a sign to indicate that you were open for people to come. And there were lots of accessibility issues. It was not a welcoming place. And people thought parking was the problem. And so lots of studies were done about parking. It was not the problem. And this is the same street today, which does accommodate parking in a pedestrian-friendly way. And this is so you see the gap between these two buildings. It attracted investment. So somebody actually infilled with that building right there. This is before the hollowed out shell of the building. And this is something that our firm worked on, by the way. This is after. And it's really become, Sulphur Springs, the park and the streets have become really a centerpiece for the community. It's interesting. So this is a story about a young woman who was involved with this process, involved with the visioning and the charrette like we're doing now. And after it was all built, she was walking around, she had a connection with the city manager. She was looking for a wedding venue, and they were walking down this street in Sulphur Springs, and she kind of stops and says, you know what, let's have it here. I can't think of a better spot. So the city closed the street, and they had a wedding in a beautiful setting. And that's the kind of place you want in terms of whether it's a postcard space or an Instagram-worthy space, whatever postcards and Instagram becomes in the future, that's what you want. So this is, again, Sulphur Spring from above before the project. Again, the issue that was heard was not enough parking. And this is the historic courthouse kind of facing from the southwest corner. The parking is all you see. And again, we went through a similar process, and we went through a number of ideas. And this became this. And as it turns out, we were able to accommodate the same number of spaces that were in this lot. So again, it's about the relationships you create through design. And so these are the kinds of images that we see today. We see kids playing splash pads, we see festivals, barbecues, food trucks, musical performances, spaces for people of all ages. That's a very important indicator of whether your city is doing well. Do you have people, as they say, from 8 to 80 there? Again, we have a before and an after. So here we don't have an active edge, and here we do. We actually have a couple of active edges. We have free-range kids here. That's what the town or people that visited it's worked with us. They let their kids go free in downtown because it's safe. And so the square that we helped design, it's used for large public gatherings, and the entire public space can be used by everyone, in part because of the way we designed it. We used something called curbless streets or flush streets. So instead of a curb and gutter like you typically have, you handle your drainage by creating these valley gutters. You remove the curb, you tilt the sidewalk away from the building, and that's much more accessible. And we actually went back and looked at all the people circled here are using some kind of mobility device, whether it's a wheelchair, whether it's a walker, there are a number, I think we counted, we counted 6 folks, and those are 6 folks who would have stayed home if they didn't have access to that place. So those people are always there, and the built environment can help invite them out. So I'm going to briefly go over our work in Denison too, which is one of your neighbors to the north. Again, same deal. We arrived back in 2016, wow, 10 years ago. We did the same process. We met with people, we got feedback, we had maps on hand, and we ended up producing an illustrative plan. This was a little more specific to a project that the city wanted to pursue, which was their Main Street and alleyway project. And so we came up with a plan for 8 blocks of downtown Denison. And this was Main Street before. Again, great bones, but you had out of the 100 feet from building face to building face, you had 70 devoted to the street. This is a 2-lane street, and it's dominated by the automobile. And so this is what we envisioned for it. And phase 1 was completed back in 2023, I believe. Phase 2 is ongoing. And it's a much nicer place for people to walk and be out and take part in public life. And so when we think about walkable places, we kind of have a hierarchy. It's got to be comfortable first. It's got to be engaging, accessible. It's got to be connected to a number of places, convenient for people to go to, and legible. It's got to be understandable for people to go through. All right, so I'm going to quickly zoom through a few more ideas that we typically bring to the table, and then we're going to get into our activity. So when we think about spaces, we think about how hard they are versus how soft they are. Now, this is a little bit of an extreme example. We're talking about the upper right. The softest space in a forest you can get is just by walking through the middle of it. There's no trail. The ground under your feet is spongier. But as you progress towards the hard end of the spectrum, you get kind of the cow path that you can kind of see. You get a more defined trail, and then finally a concrete or asphalt path. And that has implications in terms of values and maintenance. Again, a hard space, prison cell, very easy to maintain. You can just spray off the walls. Or a soft space, which is this lovely cabin scene. Very comfortable, very engaging and warm, but it's a lot harder to maintain. And so we're thinking about these things, the trade-offs that we make when we make something hard but easy to maintain versus soft and harder to maintain. We understand there are trade-offs for the people that use it, for the people that are tasked with maintaining it on the city side. So again, classrooms, same deal. Hospitals, McDonald's versus fine dining. You make a lot more money at the fine dining place. Again, a lot more expensive to run though than the McDonald's with chairs that are literally bolted to the floor. And this is true in cities and streets. So we have hard streets versus soft streets. So these are the things that we think about and we ask you to think about as we start our visioning exercise. So on your table, there are a series of maps. There should be 4 pieces of large white paper and a large pen. There might be a few folks that can combine. It would be helpful if you have some other folks to talk to. But what we're going to do is I'd like you to choose a note taker for your group. Number each of your 4 large white sheets of paper, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then I'm going to show a series of questions on the next few slides. So these are the 4 questions that we ask. What do you like and wish to preserve about Anna? What do you dislike?
I'm gonna have my set question.
What do you dislike and want to change? What is missing in downtown Anna that you would like to see created? And when we ask these questions, we're thinking about today, sure, but really we're also thinking about 50 years or 100 years in the future. You know, what would you like to see it be like in 100 years? And then on the 4th sheet of paper, what are the key values that you would like to see shape Anna? So if you have any questions, we're going to walk around. We're happy to kind of talk you through any questions you might have. And then what we'll do with this feedback is we'll end up using it. We'll literally put it on the walls around us as we start exploring some ideas over the next few days.